I'm here with Bjarte Hiley, who's a very good friend of mine and is going to be running a course with us starting very soon called Ensoulment through Movement. And I want to start by telling a story that I've told many times, actually, because it had such an impact on me. But it was when Bjarte was in our SAS training 7 years ago, and went on quite a ride. And in his last weekend, he was like sat on all this anger, and it was super uncomfortable for him. And he was kind of trying to avoid it or different things. And then eventually it started to come out, his anger, and then it had such clarity and wisdom in it. He basically just went round pretty much the whole circle and showed us where we weren't aligned in our bodies and where we were not in our alignment and power, and gave me a massive wake-up call. Like, it was the most kind of powerful someone's kind of come into my being through my body, or like helped me feel what's really happening in me and how I can kind of adjust that through my posture and movement. That has led to a super rich journey for me ever since then. And I'm really excited of what you can offer people, what you've offered me, but what you like, the way that you've structured this course feels awesome to me. Like the distinctions that you've made of sensitivity and capacity and expression, it really speaks to me. And I think, especially for people who have done circling and surrendered leadership, like they'll realize that even though you're coming at it more from a movement perspective, that's how I feel what you do. It's like, oh, we're into this same kind of consciousness that I know from circling or surrendered leadership, but we've come in from a different direction, and that makes it super rich.
Yeah. It's funny to hear that story again. It's been a while since I've heard it. It's my side of it was like, it's like, oh, it feels like there's more possible here. But it wasn't quite explicit in that way. It was more like a sort of a growing discomfort in me, like seeing something in how the space was looking. I was like, oh, people seem to be stuck in something, like it's not necessary, or something that didn't feel necessary to me. And it didn't occur to me until that incident, actually, and sort of after that incident, that I really had a big gift actually to give there. That it wasn't just something to be annoyed about, but it was actually sort of wisdom coming through me in my experience and informing the space about what more was possible. So yeah, I feel it's been a long time coming, this course, but I'm feeling excited about it now as we're talking about it. Like the whole journey I've been on with like making the distinctions and like trying to create a framework for what I actually do, which has sort of been implicit in me. And then this journey of making it more explicit and creating a framework to guide people through that process of opening to more of that intelligence in them, and how to navigate the moment and how to orient from a place of trust, like and it really feels aligned with the circling principles, like, as you know, obviously, like it feels in some way like it's, I don't know, related, like we're brothers or something like that in that, and how there's a slightly different entry point we use, but it's sort of pointing towards the same thing.
Exactly.
So I'm feeling excited about that, sharing it with more people from the circling community.
I might actually do it myself. Like I haven't been attracted to do any online stuff during the pandemic this whole time. But it does call me. It does call to me, and in that way, it also feels super good to offer it to the field of people that I work with and say, hey, check this out. You might really get something cool from it.
Mm. Mm.
Would you like to say anything more about it? It's like I'm feeling ready to wrap this up, unless you want to actually share something about the course, or for the people who might be thinking about it.
Yeah, well, I think I want to say something about the name, Ensoulment through movement, what that means exactly. And ensoulment is a term I stumbled onto a while ago, and it just felt like it captured the thing that I'm working with, which is, and it sort of ties up to embodiment. So embodiment and ensoulment. So embodiment is inhabiting your body, right? Like really becoming embodied, becoming sort of more connected or unified with your body. And an ensoulment to me is about how, as we become more embodied, there's room for soul to start coming through. As we start to attune and listen to soul, there's like a specific way that shows up in the body that we can start to almost get curious about how it's happening now, like stepping into that not knowing of it, and how there is a deeper knowing coming through, which is sort of a mysterious process I wouldn't claim to fully understand, but it's like there's like a deep listening and letting go that can start happening. Or I guess that has to happen in order to like listen to soul. And how this course is it's structured in a way that we're going to be working with these 3 dimensions of movement. So there's going to be like specific practices to work on them, and the dimension of capacity, which is like your which I think it maps onto the integral quadrants also, sort of like the it domain, like the upper right quadrant, like how you can, and also the lower right actually. It's encapsulated in that. So it's like what kind of movements you're capable of creating with your body. It's about the strength of your muscles, the mobility, like so the range of motion. It's about what you can do with your body, what you can do, and it's often underappreciated how important that is. Where it's sort of, I think it's often fallen prey to sort of a reductionist approach, as like, well, just you need to stimulate your muscles so they stay healthy or that they grow, which is true, but it's also so much more than that. And that's what I want to also share with people through this course, like how that can be such a pleasurable and enjoyable journey, which ties into the next dimension of sensitivity, which is, unless you include sensitivity in your journey to build capacity, it's probably going to be a bit miserable, or you're going to have to rely on extrinsic motivation to get you to do it, which for some people works and for others doesn't. So sensitivity is about the felt sense in the upper left quadrant, so the I, personal space, and how you inhabit yourself, and the journey of sensitizing yourself to your body. So opening the connection, opening the channel, so you have so the wisdom that's actually coming through bottom up through your nervous system is available to you. So that's where the embodiment is really key. So there will be practices where we're exploring that, like how to work with and how to work through these experiences. And then expression, which is the interpersonal. So that's where a lot of the magic of circling happens. It's like in this sort of personal collective space,
Right.
which is like kind of weird how, like, what that is even. So and that's sort of like the boundary between I and we. So how, one of the ways I think about it is like, how transparent can I become to this space, the we space, and how at one can I become with it, which in one way is like a goal, you could say, but it's not one that one should push against. So I think I want to sort of dial it back in a bit, just now that I said it, into just noticing what's happening there, which is really valuable information that we sometimes miss, I think, because of that distinction, that we don't have that distinction. So yeah, and in that dimension of expression, there's so much possible. Like that's where all of the aliveness is, right? That's where all of the juice is. There's so much to explore there, and there's so much shame around that also, which is like limiting why we're not showing up with that, or fear, or all of those things. So I'm just really excited about bringing those together into a container and going on a journey with people to kind of uncover more of that. Like maybe there's one of those dimensions someone is more comfortable in than others, or one of them that they're less comfortable in, and like that's going to be, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out in the group also, for me personally.
I love that expression piece. It reminds me of, in the leadership circle, when it's like somehow when you're connected and you're present with yourself, it's like when self and other is honored, it's like there can be this expression which kind of unites the self and other dichotomy in a way, and it's emergent, it's new. Like I remember coming to one of your workshops in Amsterdam that you did, and like being witnessed in movement and surrendering together, and then this whole other kind of movement came out of me. It was like unbelievable to feel like it was like I had this kung fu guy inside me that I didn't know was there, and like was just moving in a way that I didn't know I could move, and it was just there, and it felt amazingly liberating and powerful, and like I got to meet more of myself.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And yeah, that's been a massive journey for me also with that. It's like, I think that's what brought me into that exploration, was like, whoa, when as I let go, and especially as I'm witnessed by someone else, like as I go through whatever I experience in relationship to that, which for me was like massive amounts of social fear and anxiety, essentially, which was stopping me from actually showing up. But then as I meet that with compassion, with someone who is compassionate, preferably, then it's somehow something alchemizes, and then all of these expressions become available through that. And it's always surprising what comes up. It's always surprising.
And it does feel like connected to soul. It's like, oh, this is something in my soul. My soul already knew this, but I didn't know this, or something. So it does feel like a process of ensoulment.
Yeah. It's like beyond the limited self, which is like the thing, the conception of ourselves that we have, like what we think we're able to do or not able to do, like all of these beliefs that we have, which are serving us in various ways. But then as we let go of those, then there's like this, well, let go of those with good discernment, then there's like this amazing spontaneous intelligence that starts bursting forth. But it requires that courage to slow down and the skillful means of discerning what's going on and what it means.
Also, when you say like beliefs, like the beliefs that we can be carrying unwittingly that are kind of manifesting themselves in our lives, the other way in is like those beliefs are actually in our posture. They're in a tension in our structure somewhere, or they're in a collapse somewhere. So it's like this other way into that dimension, like from the physical body that's like already here.
You dropped out for a bit there, but I heard you talking about beliefs and posture and like how it shows up. Yeah. Exactly.
It's like how available it actually.
You still there, John?
Yeah. It's like, it's how available it is. It's like, as people are even listening now, like just the way that they're sitting or standing, or like there's actually, the body is giving information to them. And what you do so beautifully is like create space for a deeper listening of what's there.
Mm-hmm.
on that embodied level. And then and then looking at the movement, like what is the movement that wants to happen? What movement's already happening?
Yeah, and in a way, it's like creating the space where nothing has to happen.
Right.
There's no pressure for anything to happen, because it's like from that place, if there is any pressure, that's just going to contract that right back down. It's like, because that pressure means attachment, and there's stuff that should or shouldn't happen, and then that flow is just going to be cut off. So it's like in that space of letting go, that's where you see all the ways your beliefs are showing up in you, and like how they're sort of holding you together in certain ways. And
right.
And then it's like exploring, well, okay, is this like what's going on here? And like, how can I work within that, or work out of it? Like, where is it actually not necessary? And maybe also, where is it necessary? Or where can a belief become a bit more fluid, so that it's not sort of a rigid one, but it's more adaptable to context, so that there's a listening to it. Because usually these beliefs, they're sort of ways of, well, they're rules, right, for how to deal with different situations. Usually it's like, when I do this, then this happens, and when someone says this, that means this. And it's quite useful, but then often we run up against the limitations of that, and then we're unable to fluidly adapt to the context as it's arising. And sometimes that's necessary, and other times not so much. But yeah, that's also some of the stuff that really gets explored in the work I do.
And that thing about it not needing to be different, that's something that I think you embody in when you're working with people to a super high level. Like what I've witnessed in you is like you coming into a very innocent place where you're really with someone, in like them going into super deep places in themselves, and you're still there yourself, like you're still revealing and transparent in what's happening in you, and in the way, like profoundly not needing them to be any different, that allows like something very intimate to be witnessed. And often then, yes, something new can emerge from that. But it's a very beautiful quality that you have. Yeah, that I'm sure you'll be, that's what people will feel in this program.
Appreciate it. Feels nice to hear that.
It, like, I'm noticing all this appreciation for you that comes up, and it now I think of like, yeah, how long has this been in the making? Like 3.5 years. Of course, like we went to Costa Rica for 2.5 weeks to produce this course 3.5 years ago, and had an incredible time, and like learned loads of stuff, and then the course didn't get made, and but that's how it goes, and that's the reason now why I can share so much enthusiasm and appreciation for you, because I've wanted to get behind what you do, and I've wanted to bring it to more people and make it accessible and have it enrich the circling field more, and anyone else who wants to do it.
It feels nice that you bring it up, actually, because that's also been my sort of soul journey of like working through all of this that I have in relationship to it, and like finding my own non-will based movement forwards into the world with it, because it really resisted any will-based action. This course, it was like really frustrating at times. It's
you didn't get frustrated at all.
So that was a real journey, and it feels like it still is, of actually just opening and not knowing, but trusting regardless. I can feel the aliveness of that as I'm talking about it, but it's certainly not easy. It hasn't been an easy process, but here it is. Here it is.
And it does feel like those distinctions that you've made, it reminds me a bit of the principles that, like your version of something like that, that's take like a bit like you need to go through an alchemical process where there's a lot of discomfort and heat for something quite pure to come out on the other side. And that's what when you mention those 3 distinctions, I'm just like, that is exquisite. Like that they are the distilled pointers to this incredible expression possible, this ensoulment potential. Like here are 3 keys, here are 3 beautiful gateways into this experience and this exploration. And it took a lot of time for those to be formed. Like it took a lot of suffering and struggle.
Yes, certainly did. Yeah, an alchemical process feels very appropriate. That's because that's what it was, and that's what it is, and that's what this essentially is about. So even though there are these structures, there is alchemy happening here also for those entering the course. So there is a stepping into the unknown, and there is like a not knowing, and there is something that has to run its course. And that always reveals sort of these unknown goods, and is can be really vulnerable and scary, but seems to pay off in the end.
Does this feel good to wrap up? Yeah.
Yeah. I was hoping for a bit more of a snappy sales pitch at the end to invite people in, not the sort of but it feels pretty true.
And people can reach out to you if they want to know more, and or me.
Yeah.
Great. Pleasure. Excited.
Me too.
Okay. Bye, everyone.